Both Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have made absolutely wonderful decisions when it's come to building the Detroit Lions, but the best decision they ever made could easily be stated as being the reason for all the success that they've had. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, coming from my little studio here, obviously the weather right now here in upstate New York is a little bit on the dreary side. It is very windy, very gray outside. Not exactly the greatest day in the world, but it is what it is. But having said that, I wanted to come up with a concept. I wanted to come up with an idea for an episode that was a little bit different than anything I've done before. And I started looking for things to talk about. And all of a sudden, I got this email push notification that sent me to this article. And I read the article. And when I got done reading the article, it was like I had this, spark of inspiration to come up with this concept. And the concept is about what has been the best decision that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have ever made. Because let's be honest with ourselves, ever since Holmes and Campbell have been here, they have just made great decisions, one after another. And some of them have been surprising because for some people, when the decision was made, there was criticism as to why that decision was made. Some people thought it wasn't going to work. Some people thought the Lions had reached, blah, 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 blah. But you have to think about it from another perspective. When you take a look at the Lions over, the last 20 plus something years, and even before that, ever since the 1950s, 1960s, they've had a long and troubled history in many different ways when it comes to roster decisions and other things as well, whether it's wins, trades, signings, drafting, whatever the hell you might want to call it. And oftentimes, all these events that I'm talking about here, they're not separate. Oftentimes, they get compiled and compounded on one another, and it's like, okay, they're all kind of joined together to heighten and intensify the misery that has long been the MO for Lions football. But if we go back to 2021, everything changed when Sheila, at the advice of guys like, Chris Spielman, Barry Sanders, Rod Wood, Mike Disner, she made 2 hirings that would forever change the trajectory of Lions football. And that was when she hired Brad Holmes and then hired Dan Campbell. And as I said, since those 2 guys have arrived, they have sustained the greatest turnaround and sustained success that the Lions have had since the 1950s. And like I've also just said, while they have made an absolute just bunch of wonderful decisions, great decisions, their best one, and arguably the one that is responsible for the reason that the franchise is where it's at right now, I know a lot of people are going to wonder what it is, but I'm going to tell you what it is. It was the decision when they traded Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff. Now, I know I've talked about the trade before in the past, but I'm going to take you guys from a different angle than what I've talked about it before. I'm not talking about, who won the trade and all that nonsense, because you know what? Nobody gives a damn turkey about it. Because when we look at the trade, many people are going to want to say that the Lions have not won the trade because, well, the Lions have not won a Super Bowl, because the Rams have. However, if you just go based off of that thought process, it's not a correct way to analyze the situation. You have to analyze the situation from the long-term success of both the teams. Yes, the Rams won a Super Bowl instantaneously after the trade. 2021, the trade happened. 2021, the Rams won the Super Bowl. And we already know that the Rams won a Super Bowl. But you have to think about it from this perspective. Which team, based off of the trade, has shown that their success is not just a short-term base of success, but it's a long-term basis of success? Pardon me, I was getting my tongue twisted there. The Lions' trade of Goff from Stafford has ensured that the Lions will be an extremely successful franchise for years. And they have a huge Super Bowl window for years. Now, yes, the Rams won a Super Bowl, but let's think about it. In terms of which team has a larger and more opportune window to win Super Bowls, that's the Lions every day, twice on Sunday. The Rams, at best, are questionable in their ability to do so because they have no idea how much longer Stafford's going to play. At this point, they're kind of going through the 1 year, going year to year, seeing how Stafford feels, see how Stafford wants to come back, how much money it's going to cost. That's what kind of mode they're in right now. They're kind of going through the freaking Rodgers routine of what the Packers were going through towards the end. The only difference is that Rodgers was more of a prima donna and a psychopath, whereas Stafford is not that bad. Stafford has his own little quirks, but he ain't that bad. So let's just think about this here. Why has the trade been such a successful one for the Lions of Goff from Stafford? Well, obviously, definitely, we couldn't talk about this trade without all the draft picks that Brad Holmes got from the trade, and then use those draft picks, the 2 first-round picks and the third-round pick, to then get all of the ensuing draft picks from there, because those have had a massive impact. There's no doubt about this. There's no way I could have a conversation about this without talking about those draft picks, because they are absolutely important. But let's back this just up a half a second here. The draft picks, while they are absolutely crucial to the Lions' success, everything starts and ends with the central person of the trade, Jared Goff. And I'm going to prove it to you. Let's think about this, folks. When you go back to the trade that the Lions made, which, again, I highly put this out there because a lot of people seem to forget it. The trade was made at the request of Stafford. Stafford wanted out. So when the Lions made the trade, 2 things instantaneously happened. Number 1, the Lions were extremely excited to get Goff. Both Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were absolutely ecstatic about getting Goff. But on the opposite side of that coin, Goff was absolutely shell-shocked that he was blindsided by the surprise trade. Because as we know, Goff was not expecting the trade, didn't know that it was coming. It happened literally by a surprise for him. And then Goff stated that once he found out about the trade, he was so shook by it, he didn't take any calls when he found out about it. In fact, it wasn't until Goff's agent reached out to him and said that Brad was actually calling him that he actually decided to take the call. Now, it's not because Goff didn't want to talk to Brad. It was just like, listen, because of the state that he was in, it was like, okay, I need to take some time to process this. But obviously, Goff has a relationship with Brad. We've known about that for years. So knowing that Brad was calling him, Goff obviously knew, okay, this is somebody I need to talk to. But once he did, the call that he got was an instantly uplifting one. This is what Goff had to say when he got the phone call from Brad Holmes and actually, received it. This is what he said. He said, and he's talking about Holmes, on the phone like, hey, Jared, he's so excited. Finally, I got you. We're so excited for you. We're so excited to have you here. And then I can hear Dan. Jared, I can't wait to have you here. We're so excited. Now, I want to point something out here. Notice the difference right away in the terminology, the phraseology, and exactly what Campbell and Holmes were saying there. Both of them expressed right off the bat and repeatedly their extreme excitement at getting Goff. And like I said, they were repetitive in that sentiment. At least both of them said it twice in just that one simple quote. Now notice this. Just as repetitive as they were in the sentiment of being excited about getting Goff, it was just on the flip side of that coin as repetitive from McVay and Snead how much disdain and apathy they had for Goff prior to the trade. So for Goff to now have these two guys who one of them knows him very well, have them say all this about him. They're excited to have him. They can't wait for him to get there. To hear that they not only wanted him, but they're excited for him to be there. You got to think that was a massive shot in the arm for Goff. Because again, you go back to the end of 2020, I mean, for crying out loud, McVay was berating, calling out Goff in the locker room. Les Snead was pretty much saying, we have a quarterback. And it's like, dude, the Rams pretty much without actually saying it had pretty much said, yeah, we're not sold on Goff. And it's like, okay, that right there is a huge detriment to a quarterback because it's like, listen, if the team that you have taken to a Super Bowl, that you've invested everything into, is now pretty much shunning you in public and also in private, that's going to eat away at your confidence. But now all of a sudden, he's got these two guys that are on the phone, one of which he knew in LA, but the other guy he's never met before as far as a coach is concerned. They are excited as hell to get him in the office. They're excited as hell to get him on the team. And then that's where Goff said that he was thinking to himself this. He said this to himself. He said, let's do this. If those two guys believe in me, then that's all I need. I'm going to say this right now, folks. If that is all Goff needed, I would say the Lions got the best end of that deal between the Goff and the Stafford trade. Because let's consider this. Goff since 2021, fourth highest completion percentage, second highest passing yard total, tied fourth highest for average per throw, fourth most passing touchdowns, ninth best pass touchdown percentage per throw, tied fourth best in interception percentage per throw, fourth highest passer rating, fifth most overall wins. If all it took for Goff to get all fired up, to have that confidence to be like, hey, let's do this, was just to have somebody express confidence, faith in him, and believe in him. And that's what he's done since getting here. Being a top 5 quarterback, that's all he needed. Well, hot damn, I consider that a great deal. Because let's just think about this. Not only is that what Goff has done since 2021, let's think about this as well. Since 2021, Goff is tied for third most in the NFL out of all active quarterbacks with fourth quarter comebacks. He has 11 of them. He's only behind Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes. And on top of that, in terms of fourth quarter comebacks, Goff was tied for second with fourth quarter comebacks in 2024 with 4. Again, only behind Patrick Mahomes. Oh, and speaking of 2024, Goff's best season with the Detroit Lions by far in 2024 came as, when he was a Lion. Because, that's right, in 2024, what did Goff do? He was second best in the NFL in completion percentage, second best in the NFL in passing yards, second best in the NFL in pass average per throw, fourth best in passing touchdowns, third best in pass touchdown percentage per throw, second best in the NFL in passer rating, and sixth best in QBR. I mean, for crying out loud, I see 2, 2, 2, 4, 3, 2, 6. I mean, for crying out loud, you want to say it? I'm going to just say it. Goff was a top 3 quarterback in 2024. You want to argue that all you want? Sure, that's great, but you're going to look like an idiot trying to argue it. The numbers don't lie. The rankings don't lie. From 2021 till now, Goff has been a top 5 quarterback. From last year alone, Goff was a top 3 quarterback. Goff has been clutch in the fourth quarter, considering the fact that over the last 4 years, he's in the top 3 of most fourth quarter comebacks out of all active quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I mean, you want to argue it all you want, but the numbers are going to be like, yeah, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because here's the reason why, other than those numbers, why I think Goff is the best decision that Holmes and Holmes and Dan Campbell ever made. My point is a simple one. Goff not only was, not only is, but remains the best decision those two ever made, and here's the reason why. Because if not the decision to trade for Goff and give him that excited confidence, belief, and faith in him, then the Lions would be absolutely 100% screwed. And I'll tell you why. Number one, without Goff, we do not win near as damn much as we have been. I just said it a few moments ago. Since 2021, Goff has given us freaking 11 fourth quarter comeback wins. You want to know how many Stafford has had with the Rams? I think it's like 7. That's a massive difference right there, number one. But also, I know this for a fact. People are going to be like, oh, well, if we don't win, our draft pick goes up. And yeah, you know what? That's true. But I'm also going to tell you this right now. If we don't win, and our record gets better every single year from 3-13-1 to 9-8 to 12-5 and 15-2, I can tell you this right now. We would have had no chance or little chance to resign the guys we've already re-signed that were draft picks. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Ali McNeil, and all these other guys that are coming up. Because I know some people have also forgot about this. When Amon-Ra St. Brown found out that he was getting drafted by the Lions, he did not like it. He was not happy about coming here to Detroit. In fact, he said that what changed his mind about Detroit was not only the work ethic and the way that the Lions prepared because of Dan Campbell, but it was because of his quarterback, Jared Goff. That's a pretty big damn to do right there, because a wide receiver is going to want to play with a quarterback they like. So if Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't have Goff, we don't get to keep Amon-Ra St. Brown. And on top of that, it would have probably costed us more to try and convince him to stay if we could have convinced him. That's number one. Number two, without Goff, we would have had to have wasted a pick on guys that have either been journeymen already or have proven they are not of starting level caliber in terms of the NFL at quarterback. Because let me just take you guys down a little bit of memory lane here. Some of the quarterbacks that have been drafted since Goff got, to the Lions in 2021. Will Levis, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. I mean, let me just put this out there. Imagine our team stuck with those bums. Imagine where this team would be if we had one of those guys. Oh, yeah, I know some people would say, well, David, we could have gotten a guy like a C.J. Stroud or something like that. Could have. That's a very big could. That's a very big if. Because there's no guarantee we would have had the chance to get them. But think about all the guys that we did get because we already had Goff and we didn't have to worry about the quarterback experiment. Hutch, Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch, Jamo. I mean, the list goes on and damn on. Because we didn't have to play the Russian roulette wheel of trying to find a quarterback because we already had one. That position was already locked down. We could actually focus on true roster building and thus get our team where it needed to be. Because as everyone says, the one position you absolutely have to have solidified if you're going to be a Super Bowl contender is the quarterback position. Could you imagine trying to win a Super Bowl with any of those bums? There's a reason why they're journeymen. There's a reason why the last couple of draft classes for quarterbacks have been considered the worst in NFL history. I mean, for crying out loud, Kenny Pickett's already on his third team in the NFL. Same thing for Zach Wilson. Same thing, I think either Trey Lance is on his second team or about to be on his third team. Mac Jones is on his third team. I mean, dude, all those quarterbacks are bums. But yet Goff has been one of the best ever since we got him. Oh, and then that brings me to point number 3. Without Goff, I'm going to say this right now, and it pains me to say this, but it's the damn truth, and I don't shy away from the truth. Without Goff, it's also highly likely that both Holmes and Campbell probably would have been fired by now. If not Holmes, definitely Campbell would have been fired. Y'all remember the early stages of 2022? I remember it because I heard a lot of Lions fans saying, fire Campbell, he can't get the job done. He's too aggressive, he doesn't understand football, get rid of him, start all over again. I remember those conversations because I actually made a video. I was like, you better be careful what you wish for. Because if you fire Campbell and he's the guy and you give up on him too soon, that's going to screw this team over. And thank God the Lions did not. Thank God Sheila had that freaking press conference where she's like, listen, I'm committed to the process. I trust Holmes. I trust Campbell. I trust Goff. We are going to stay the course. And think about it. After that interview, the Lions went 8-3 and finished the year 9-8. And since then, we've been 12-5 and 15-2. I'd say that interview, I'd say sticking to the process has proven to be a pretty fruitful one now, wouldn't you? Oh, and let's think about this. Had the Lions fired Campbell and gotten rid of Goff, chances are we would have gone through the same painful cycle of getting rid of quarterbacks and head coaches that we've been doing for the last 20-something plus years. Because think about it. If there's one thing us Lions fans know, if it's not the head coach that's getting fired when the team's not winning, it's the quarterback getting replaced. How many quarterbacks have we seen been replaced for the Detroit Lions? Joey Harrington, Mike McMahon, John Kitna, Jeff Garcia, Dante Culpepper. I mean, that list goes on and on. How many head coaches have we seen been fired? Freaking Marty Morningweg, Steve Mariucci, Rod Marinelli. Then you also have in there Jim Schwartz. You have also Jim Caldwell. I mean, dude, we've gone through a literal litany of cycles getting rid of head coaches and quarterbacks. This is probably one of the longest tenures that we've had with the same head coach and the same damn quarterback, and also it been successful. And then the final thing I'm going to say here is this. Without Goff, you can forget about those 2 division titles we've won back-to-back, and you can sure as hell forget about the playoff wins we've had. And then, without the division titles, without the playoff wins, Detroit sports, with all the revival that came from the Lions being successful, and now the Pistons, and now also the Tigers and the Red Wings, who knows where that's going to be at? And you can sure as hell forget about the Jared Goff chance. Now, I can say this, you know what? Maybe I'm just being a little bit too much about this, and you know what? Maybe it could have turned out fine in the end. But let me put it out here this way. If I were a betting man and someone were to ask me, would I rather have Goff, knowing what I know right now, versus the unknown of trying to make something like this work with any of those guys that I just mentioned, and on the rare chance you could have possibly moved up and get one of the guys that have actually been successful over those last couple of draft picks, I'm telling you this right now. I would much rather bet on Goff. Because here's the thing, ever since Goff got to work with, Holmes and Campbell, we've seen that rise that Campbell likes to talk about, that steady rise where it's like every single year it has gotten better and better and better. I would much rather have that steady continued success rather than hoping and praying, hey, you know what, maybe we might get a blip on the radar, rather than, hey, you know what, every single year we know we're going to get something good. Just saying. That's why I'm saying the best decision that Holmes and Campbell ever made was when they got Goff in the trade for Stafford. Because without Goff, I can tell you this right now, this train that we've been on for the last 4 years, I don't even know if it leaves the station. And if it does leave the station, it sure as hell ain't as smooth as it has been. Those are the damn facts. Argue with me all you want. But I can tell you this. The reality of the situation versus the unknown and the speculation that you could possibly have with all the other conversation, I would not want to have that one. I am much Much more happy with what I have right now rather than speculating on, gee, I wonder what would have happened if we'd have done this instead. You can have all that conversation that you want. You're going to tie yourself up in knots. I like what I have, and I like the fact that Holmes and Campbell, the best decision they ever made, was also the very first decision they ever made. But anyway, folks, I figured I'd make this conversation. It was definitely one where I had to think about it quite a bit. So, having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching for yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also encourage y'all to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel can grow and spread. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope y'all are having a great day. I hope y'all have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. But I also hope that you guys got something from this content. You all enjoyed it. Maybe learned something. And if not, maybe had something to think about. Because that's what I truly want you all to have with this content. Whether it's the first time you're watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day. With that being said, I just want to say, God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.